Hey everyone, and welcome to 121 in Flux. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we talk about movies on this show. Sometimes really old movies, sometimes just a few years old movies. I really need to nail down like a proper introduction
You
for this
really
show.
do. It's been like
I
9, 10 months and still nothing.
I phrase it a different way every time, and every single time it sounds worse than the last. Yeah, we talk about movies. In this episode, this is actually the winner of our Patreon vote for the month. Obviously on Patreon, $5 tier and up. The patrons get to vote between four movies for the following month. So the winner of last month's vote is this, which is Ex Machina, which was the theme was basically androids, robots, cyborgs. Mainly because Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner, was out this month, so we picked something that was kind of themed similarly. This was a week later than intended, which is a little bit weird because it means by the time it goes public on YouTube, it'll already be November. But that wasn't planned; it just worked out that way because we missed a week at one point. But here we are. We are here now. So we'll start spoiler free as we always do. I'll give you a warning somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers. What is Ex Machina though? Ex Machina is a science fiction film. As we said, obviously it deals with of an android of some kind,
Yes.
as I just implied. But specifically, you've got a character named Caleb who wins a competition to come and visit this reclusive billionaire who runs like a Google style company called Blue Book. And he lives on his own. He's got his own private area. It's in his own big, massive private bit of land. In fact, as the helicopter pilot at the start says, we've been flying over his estate for the last 2 hours. That implies a huge piece of land.
It really does, doesn't it? 2 hours in a helicopter is no short distance.
It's basically a state.
Pretty much.
It is. It's big enough. I mean, it's at least a city.
Oh, easily. Way more than a city.
Yeah. So, I mean, guy's filthy rich, but he's obviously reclusive. He lives on his own. You've got so Caleb, the main character, is played by Domhnall Gleeson, and then you have Nathan, who's the millionaire, the billionaire probably, played by Oscar Isaac. So this was before Star Wars, which
I
they were
mean,
both
it
in.
was it was it was that year, wasn't it? Because it was. I remember going to see this at
Yeah,
the start of that year and going,
yeah, it
"Oh, they're
was.
both in that later."
Yeah, it was early 2015. This came out, and then of course Ava is the android in question. She's played by Alicia Vikander, who is upcoming. She's going to be the new Tomb Raider. She's Lara Croft. She was in a couple of things. She was in the last Jason Bourne movie, which was not great. I like her a lot, but that movie was not good.
No, this is definitely the movie that's kind of given her a career, though.
Oh yeah, I mean she was in this, and then she was in the Danish Girl the same year, which was the Oscar one.
Yeah.
I felt this should have been the Oscar one, admittedly, but hey ho.
Yeah, but that was one of those where they were kind of tying the performances together. In it's like, okay, you deserve it for both of these.
I
I mean,
guess.
it felt like it was like, okay, they were only nominating one officially, but it was to do with both of them.
This did get a screenplay award, so I'll take that. But
Yeah.
yeah, so he's there to test Ava, basically the Turing test, which is to determine whether or not an AI is actually an AI. Does it have a conscience? Does it think for itself, or is it just simulating thoughts? Is it just faking it essentially? That's what he's there to do. That's why the billionaire has brought him here, is to get another human being to sit down and talk to her and establish, is she really thinking for herself? And that is the premise of the movie. And it all takes place in this one little sort of research place slash mansion. It's kind of a mix. The top half of it's kind of like just like a really fancy living area, and then you've got your sort of more lab area underneath.
Yeah.
But it's just them and Ava, and he goes in and talks to her. And the film's broke up by Ava session number one and Ava session number two. He's going to be there for a week, and every day he goes and talks to her, and they talk about what the findings were, how the conversation went, what he thinks about it. And that's the movie. And obviously, it goes in places which I will not spoil. We'll talk about that later. But that's the thing. I kind of implied that I liked it already, but I'll ask the question. Connor, do you enjoy Ex Machina?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Aye. That sums it up. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you want me to say? I think it's pretty great.
I'll be honest. You could throw the opening title of Black Mirror at the start of this, and I wouldn't question it.
That's true. I mean, maybe it's a little long for that, but
Oh, sure, yeah, length. But to be fair, That last episode was like 90 minutes, so it's not that far away from it.
No, no, you're right. This is under 2 hours, so no,
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, tonally, definitely, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I really mean. Is that the subject matter and the tone are very Black Mirror to me.
Yeah,
Especially since it has a sort of darker edge to it, where there's some ambiguity as to the morals of what's going on, and basically the morality of each character, including Ava, are all kind of questionable at times.
yeah,
And it really plays with those kind of things. It plays with the human psyche. It's a very, I mean, there's actually some very good special effects in the movie because Ava, her design, like she's got her face, which obviously is just Alicia Vikander's face. She's got hands and feet that look human. They've got skin, but the rest of her, like where the underwear would be is like a sort of like solid grey colour, which okay, that's fine. She can just wear that. But the rest of her, like the top of her legs and the top of her
it's
arms,
like mesh.
it's like yeah, it's see through, and you can see like the metal skeleton underneath,
Yeah,
and like some blue lighting and stuff. So clearly, there's a lot of CGI going. I just imagine. I've not seen any photos, but I imagine that on set it was Alicia Vikander in like a green jumpsuit with just the hands, feet, and face showing.
probably. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah. I
the
mean,
maybe the grey part, maybe that was worn as well on top. But
yeah, could have done. This was not at least nominated for special effects, right? For visual effects, I'm sure it was.
I can't remember, and I don't think so. If I'm honest.
Really, I could have sworn it was nominated for
I've,
those.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I can't remember with the 5 nominations for visual
No,
effects.
no, I know.
But I remember, Mad Max was there, Star Wars was there. Was it a Transformers movie that year? Oh, that was probably there. Wasn't Batman v Superman nominated? I think it might have been, which is
It can't have been.
sickening. There's always one like that though, where I'm like, why did they nominate that? But regardless, so the reason, and what I mean by that is that I'm saying, there's actually some really impressive visual effects, which is funny because outside of the visual effects of Ava, the movie actually is the kind of plot that you would do in a really low budget movie because it all takes place at this one location.
Right.
It's all psychological. It's all about talking about humanity and consciousness and all that stuff. Like other than the way she looks, like you could have made this in the '60s with like a minuscule budget, and the only difference would be that she would have more of a normal look. She wouldn't have
Yeah,
a
I
cool
would
sci-fi
say other
look.
than her look and the actual location, they're the only things that really feel like it has a budget. Because it's this really gorgeous location, and it's this big building. It feels very realistic and like they're in this really expensive
Yeah,
place.
I mean maybe the other difference would be location-wise. Is it would still be a reclusive place, but it would feel more like a cabin or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas
Rather
this
than-
feels like, oh no, this is grand.
yeah. They spent money on their set, sure, but even that's going to be such a small part of the budget overall.
It is,
For
but
this.
it's one of those things where it's one of those rare things where you go, that looks like one of the more expensive aspects of the movie, which usually you don't think about the sets.
Oh yeah, the most expensive part is Ava, like no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, this was a low budget movie. This was according to IMDb, this was $15 million, which these days is
It's chump change.
yeah. And you get the impression, yes, a good significant portion of that went to how Ava looks, and sure they cheat a little bit. Eventually they put her in some clothes so they can hide a lot of her, so it's not as much work. But
But they only do it when it's it's earned. They don't shy away from showing her off when it should
yeah. It never feels like that they're hiding it. So that's credit to them. It never feels like the budget's a constraint. And given it as a fairly low budget movie, that is actually impressive. So I respect that a lot, and it looks good. Like I never felt like it looked fake. I never felt like I can see the.
No, obviously, because it's a couple of years old now, and sometimes CG in these days a couple of years can make a massive difference. But I'm looking at it now, going, no, it still looks amazing.
Yeah, there's no disconnect. It looks real, as real as
Yeah.
it needs to be, at least in the scenes. So the Alex Garland, who directed this movie, he definitely allocated the budget necessary to make sure that happened. He knew the one thing he had to spend the money on to make it work, and he did. Which, speaking of, he's got a new movie out next year, which I am very much looking forward to.
Me too, because obviously I knew him as a scriptwriter before, because this was his first film to direct, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, but obviously he was a scriptwriter, 28 Days Later and Dread. So he's got a big career in terms of script, which is why that I think this movie is, like you say, it's very low budget. It's all on the script. Other than that one visual effect, it's all just in the dialogue.
Also wrote Sunshine.
Yeah, that one too.
And he wrote The Beach, which I've never seen, but I'm not a big fan of 28 Days Later. I don't like the last act, but I do like Sunshine quite a bit. So,
Yeah,
well, I
and
think
obviously like Dread a lot.
yeah. Oh, Dredge, fantastic. We'll do that someday on this, I'm sure. Uh, but yeah, Ex Machina is great, and he's got Annihilation coming out next year, which again he's written and directed, and
Yeah, there's a trailer for that now, right?
there is a trailer. It looks
Yeah,
very interesting.
I've not gotten around to watching it yet because I'm awful at watching trailers.
It kind of feels like, oh, it's, a group of scientists go into a forbidden area and there might be a monster, but as the trailer goes on, it's like there's more to this. Like they're not telling us what it is in the trailer; they're holding it back.
But there's something more going on.
There's something a bit more psychological maybe going on here than what the trailer's giving away.
I'm down.
Which is great for me. I feel like maybe casual audiences will expect a monster movie and maybe don't get it.
Yeah, I feel like you could say that about this movie though.
You could, yeah. I feel like the trailer plays up the machine revolts or whatever the trailer sort of sold it as, and I mean, sure, if you go looking for it, those shots are in the movie, like the ones that they
The people making the trailer, they went digging to sell it as that, and it seems unfair because that's not what you're getting at all. You're getting a psychological thriller that happens to have an AI.
I'd go as far to call it speculation or speculative science fiction. That's what the movie is.
Yeah,
It's these two guys talking about philosophy and human nature and what makes a conscience and so on, and that stuff's pretty good, and it has to be because it's kind of what the movie's built around.
yeah, definitely.
All the performances are great. I think Isaac is good as Nathan. Like he's very friendly at first, but he's definitely got this other edge to him that is kind of hidden.
Even when you first see him, like his introduction, he's like, there's something more with this guy.
Yeah, Domhnall is very. Like he's kind of he's not like super irregular. He's kind of a dweeb, but not like a super dweeb. He's just kind of like a normal guy. He's a normal 26-year-old who,
Yeah,
like as it's even pointed out at one point, oh, he seems like a good person with good morals.
yeah, and like I said, they're all good acting, and I think that's crucial in a film where there's only really three characters for 95% of the movie.
Yeah, and obviously, Vikander is Ava. She especially has a lot to do because I mean she may have less screen time than the other two guys, but she has to sell like this. We don't really know what her intention is with each line of dialogue. Like,
Yeah, and she has so much more to do with her body language.
yes. She has to give the unconventional performance because she's playing something that's not human.
Yeah,
And then, especially when the plot is all about trying to figure out if she actually has a consciousness, like she has to then portray it in a way where, oh, does she or
could be
doesn't
either
she?
way. Yeah,
ooh.
it's the toughest job. But then to the two guys' credit, you've got to take all this stuff, this big metaphysical conversations and make it compelling and make it so you're never like looking away. You're never bored of what they're saying.
Yeah, and I think there's a danger of that in a movie like this, where it can get self-indulgent, and you've not pared it back enough to actually still make it flow like a movie. And for some people, that line's a lot shallower than it is for others. But here, certainly, I never felt that way. I felt
Me
like
either.
it moved at a nice pace, and it kept adding more onto the pile. The layers kept kind of piling up as we went. And it was becoming, okay, this is what it's about. No, this is what it's about. No, this is what it's about. Because I think you go into, okay, it's about a robot. Is she a human or not? And you kind of in your head, you've got a movie mapped out in your head what you think that is,
Yeah,
and what you think the ending's going to be. And the ending, I don't think, is what you probably think it's going to be based on. I mean, you can maybe guess it like maybe 10 minutes before it happens, but not.
I think it's always a possible outcome, but it's not one that you're expecting.
Yeah. I like I say, I think like 10 minutes before it happens, you're given enough information at that point to make a deduction of where it might go. But at the start of the movie, I feel like you have preconceived notions just based on what you've seen from other movies and other stories. You're like,
Yeah, definitely.
so I think it plays with that a little bit.
And for me, this is the first time I've seen this since that first viewing in the cinema, and it's such a different film on that second time around, more so than I was expecting. Because that first time you just kind of experience all of it and go, okay. And then, but this time I'm going, all right, I know where this is going. I want to see how it gets there, like from the other side. And it plays completely differently.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's actually one thing that I'd really forgotten about. I can't talk about it until spoilers,
Right,
but
okay.
there was one like sort of couple of scenes together that I completely forgot happened. But otherwise, yeah, I knew how it ended. I remembered where everything was
Yeah.
going. Like the motivations of the characters, I remembered all that. So yeah, on that level, it's kind of interesting watching it in a repeat viewing and looking for the signs and looking for the,
Yeah.
you know,
And just on that note, a bit of credit to the movie that 2.5 years or give or take since you watched it, and you remember the characters, the motivations very clearly.
yeah, absolutely. I remember a very sort of hypnotic scene of dancing to a disco ball.
I mean, yeah, it helps that there's the Oscar dances Twitter, which just takes that scene and puts just any music over it, and it just works. It's glorious.
I'm not familiar with this, but certainly he seemed to enjoy filming that scene. I wonder how many takes they got of him dancing.
Whatever it wasn't enough.
Yeah, so no, performances are great. Direction is very good. Music is not intrusive. Like I feel like you don't really remember what a lot of the music sounds like for the most part. I think the only part of the music that really sticks out in my mind is the last like 10 minutes. You know,
Yeah, I think this is one of those where if you're looking for it, it's doing some really clever things.
yeah, but
But otherwise, it just feels subtle and it's just setting an atmosphere.
which is kind of intentional because it's funny because we had a debate recently on the Thor, and I'll put the word review in quotes because it's debatable how much of that video was a review, but we had a debate about superhero movies and how I thought, oh, it's a kind of a shame how none of the Marvel movies have like recognizable themes, and I and we were debating whether or not it should have a recognizable theme that you can hum. And I said, obviously not every movie I feel that way, but superhero movies I do kind of feel that way. This is an example of a movie where I don't think it needs that kind of thing at all. This is a movie where, no, it's, I'm going to be pretentious here and say texture. You want a bit of texture.
No, it is
on top
definitely,
of
and
it.
I actually love this score. I've listened to it quite a lot. I think it's interesting that you mentioned Black Mirror, not so long ago in this review, because this is the composers for this are actually the guys who did what was, in our opinion, the worst episode of Black Mirror, Men Against Fire. But here it's like, oh no, they pulled off something excellent.
I don't remember complaining about the music in that
I don't
episode,
remember
to be
complaining
fair.
about the music, but I don't remember the music at all in that episode. I'll be honest, because I was so annoyed at all the other stuff.
Yeah. There was enough to complain about. We
Yeah,
never
yeah.
even spoke about the music. I
But
don't
I
think.
just it was just amusing that I do like these guys here, but that they got lumped with the shit episode in my opinion.
To be fair, like I mean, I love Hans Zimmer, to pick a big name, but he's done so many movies. There's just as many. Like when you actually look at his filmography, I feel like there's probably more movies of his that I think are forgettable scores than they are that I really like.
Oh no, that's fair. It's
But
just obviously it's more
yeah.
notable when they've not done that
Yeah.
much.
But obviously the like half dozen to a dozen that I love mean that I love that composer. Like there's a chance that when he's doing a movie, I'm going to end up loving the score. Not always,
Yeah.
but
I'm with you.
so yeah, music's good, non-invasive. But when stuff does kick in, there's a very very specific moment in the last act where it kicks in, and it kind of like kicks in with a proper tune, like it's really building to something. And it's the first time it really does it in the whole movie, but it makes sense in the context because it's like, okay, things are finally going down, and the music
It's
says
kind of
that.
that kind of doesn't really happen until the reveal of what the end point of the movie is.
Yeah.
So it's like, you've had all these hints in the music, and then it's like, okay, now we've shown you what it is. Here's the full piece.
So the music's good, direction's good, location's good, has a good look to it. It's kind of got that clinical, sleek sci-fi look, but not to an excessive degree. Like it feels like, okay, it's maybe 5 minutes into the future, but it's not like ridiculous
I
things.
think it's always that 10 minutes from now is the phrase, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll tell you what though, I want a shower where it's got a big square nozzle, because at one point you see the showers in this place, and it's like I don't know, maybe like a foot by foot square with like water coming out of it, and I'm like, I want one of those now.
They're pretty cool.
I want to feel like I'm standing in the rain when I'm having a shower.
Oh yeah, but you want the ones that come from the sides as well, yeah.
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 Well, no, I don't have one that comes from the sides. No.
Oh no, you don't want the water from all sides, sort of thing.
Oh, I might want it. I've never had it. I thought that's what you were
No,
asking.
no, that's what I'm saying. Would you in one of
All
these squares? You want the ones that come from all sides, yeah?
Sure, yeah.
They're better.
Aye, sure. I wasn't prepared for this debate. I just really like the big square nozzle.
Yeah, it was all right.
Or shower head, I suppose, what we call it. So, yeah, so all that stuff was cool. How stuff looked. Simple things like the way they've got key cards to get in and out of locks, which is a mechanic the movie sets up early on that actually comes into play in the plot later on.
Mm.
So it sets things up in that sense. But yeah, I will say it's a very good film with some paranoia elements to it. There's some scenes where you feel like, oh, am I still
Do they
being
know?
watched? Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So there's elements to that. And it all feels like a bit of a head game, and as it reveals more and more, you're thinking, okay, it does feel like it is a head game. Oh, it looks like it is a head game. Oh, it's not the head game that I thought it was, though. It's a different type of head game. Like
Yeah.
it kind of plays with that, so it's good in that sense. So with that said, though, I think we will dive into spoilers. I feel like we've exhausted the spoiler-free opportunities here, so let's dive in. So full spoilers from this point on for Ex Machina.
Do you want to start with what you forgot? I'm intrigued.
Oh right, okay. What I forgot. I was like, what do you mean? What did I forget? Forget
No,
what?
no, yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, and then I realized. Oh right, you mean the scenes that I forgot earlier on.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. I'd forgotten. I'd completely forgotten that there was a scene where he's so out, like where Caleb is so out of it that he actually. It's after he did, like, sees the footage of all the previous models, and he sees all the girls and the. I remember this scene of him finding all the girls, like all the ex
It's quite
robots.
a critical scene, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'd forgotten that the scene after that, he actually is worried that he's also a robot. So he starts
Yeah.
to look in his eye, and I completely forgot that he cuts himself in the wrist with a razor to see if he bleeds.
Really?
I'd forgotten that scene. I'm like, oh yeah, shit. Whoa, this is a dark scene. Jeez, how did I forget this? But I think it's because it is a natural worry, and I get why he's worried about it at this point in the movie. But ultimately, when you look back in the movie later, it doesn't actually feed into where it goes quite as much.
It doesn't, but I think that's kind of part of the head games, isn't it? It's
Oh,
like
sure, yeah.
he's like, hang on, he's realizing all these things. He's like, why am I picked? Why am I here? Am I one of these?
I'm just trying to justify why I'd forgotten it.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I get it. It doesn't really come up again other than one mention.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, obviously, Nathan mentioned, because Nathan's watching everything. He's got cameras all over the place. He's keeping a strict eye on everything. So yeah, obviously the main bulk of the movie is him going to talk to Ava, and then him talking to Nathan afterwards to discuss, what they find, and sort of like, is this test viable? There's a lot of philosophy getting talked about. He brings up, this idea of, like, sure, a computer can be good at chess, but does it understand what chess is? It's just programmed to do it. Does it actually
Yeah.
understand the concept of chess on its own? Like, that's kind of a different. They bring up a lot of things. They bring up. I'll get the term wrong for this, but there's the famous philosophy thing, with Mary in the box, and everything's black and white, and then she comes
Yeah.
out and she's colour for the first time, and now she's a human being, and it kind of telegraphs the ending, because as soon as they say that, I'm like, okay, so we're going to get a scene later on where Ava walks outside and sees the sky for the first time.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel cheap. It feels like payoff.
Oh, it does. But there's a lot of debating, and I think for me, what a lot of the film is really about, or what's interesting is because obviously you have the is she or isn't she human, and I typically love that, and I don't dislike it here, and like the idea of, like, finding humanity, and like, can Caleb trust, like, it seems like she has feelings for him, and he might have feelings for her, and I like the debate around that. Like, he questions it. He goes to Nathan and says, "Hey, did you program her to, like, flirt and, like, try and be attractive? Is this like he compares it to a magician? Is this the glamorous assistant to disguise the fact that it's all just smoke and mirrors, that it's all just fake? Like, so I'm too distracted by the beauty to actually notice that no, it's not actually real," kind of thing. He questions it, but and I like all that stuff. But for me, I think what makes a lot of this interesting is actually Nathan as a character, and kind of the commentary that comes with him, because it feels like a very kind of damning kind of commentary on ego.
Oh, absolutely.
The ego of man, the ego. I mean, men specifically. I was going to say mankind as a whole, which it is, but men specifically. It's brought up. Caleb says, why did you give her a sex? Like, why did she need a gender? Like, she could be a box. It doesn't matter. And he tries to justify it by saying, well, look, can we have interaction without sexuality? And I'm like, well, yeah, we probably can.
Yeah, I think he tries to be like, yeah, it could have been a man or a woman. It's more just it's easier to converse with something that seems familiar than just a box. You know, like it could be a box. It doesn't have, because as soon as they look one way or the other, you have preconceptions. That's, you know, part of being human. And this here is like, okay, if you make it intentionally so blank it can't tell, does it look human?
Well, here's the question I pondered though: why make it look human?
No, it's fair.
Is that arrogance in and of itself? It kind of goes to the
I mean, it goes back to the him calling him a god, doesn't it? It's in his image.
yeah, because that's actually like that itself is kind of arrogant. Like whoever thought that phrase up when they were writing down the Bible, right? I mean, obviously, if you're religious, you might disagree with my interpretation of how this came about, but like when that was written that we were created in God's image, is like that's kind of arrogant. Like,
it is. It's assuming that we are almost on par with a god in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, we are designed to be as good as a god.
So this has kind of flipped it around, and it's like, no, we're going to make the robots in our image because, of course, they're going to look like us because we are what people should look like. We are what beings should. We are the best of beings, so we should look like us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of that arrogance, and I think he is arrogant. I think he is kind of sexist in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And I mean, obviously, there's the obvious things where he's literally got them as sex bots. He's got one as a sex bot. That's what
he literally they're emptied and then just used,
and they're on display, and like it's all about like creating. And this is why I'm saying, like, okay, he tries to justify her being female, but honestly, it just comes across as no, she's female because it means you have power over her and you feel powerful and you get to,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like, it doesn't necessarily seem like Nathan maybe has like had trouble in the past with girls, but maybe he did. Maybe this is a way to feel powerful and not in a way.
I think the idea of making them as a person makes sense, but and I think at that point you go, oh, okay, it's maybe this is the only one he's picked a woman for whatever reason, but as it goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer that it's like, oh no, this is him.
When you see the old footage of all the previous models, and he's trying to get them to work, and they're all female, and they're all naked, and he's just doing this thing, and he makes them for his own pleasure. Well, if it's not sex, then it's dancing. Like, he turns on the music, and the one that he's got like walking around, who at first we think is just like a maid who can't speak English. And it becomes clear over the course of the movie, no, she's actually just another robot who's just there to do things for
I have to admit, that reveal always fell flat to me, because I don't know, I think it was one of those I always just assumed that she was that when as soon as she was introduced, because he was very shady about her immediately.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to feel that way, though. I think the way it's presented is that you immediately don't trust it.
Yeah.
So when it comes up as a reveal, I don't think it's meant to be like a big reveal, like, oh, you never saw that coming. I think it's just meant to be for him, for Caleb.
Okay.
Because up until this point, like, Ava clearly is a robot, just visually. She's got bits missing and she's got lights and shit, like, it's really obvious. But this is more made up, and it's like more like, she looks human, and she's fairly convincing to a point. And obviously he gets away with it.
It's just, I remember when it came out and people were talking, I was like, oh, that was a surprise. I was like,
okay. I didn't see it as much of a big surprise, but...
Maybe that's just people like us who've seen too many of these movies.
Yeah, we're too well versed in the genre.
We're looking for these things, and maybe that's all it is, but to me it felt... I thought after that, I was like, oh, was I supposed to realise that? Was that supposed to be a reveal? And I don't know.
I don't think it's a big deal, because I don't think the movie actually... Like, I don't think it cares that it's a reveal or not, really.
No, I don't think so either.
Because you're saying, was that supposed to be a reveal, but I don't think it's treated like a big reveal.
No, it's not. Which is what I mean. Like, it mostly came back after I watched it, and people were saying it, and then so in hindsight, kind of fell flat for me. Because I'm like, oh, if that's supposed to be how it's making people feel, it's not making me feel like that at all.
But is it the movie's fault that other people feel that way?
Or is it the audience? Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Because I think it's more like, when Caleb goes into that bedroom and he finds like her, she's just she's just posing in the bed naked, like she's waiting for Nathan to come in.
Yeah.
Like, she just waits there. And it's like, it's like he just makes these playthings. That's all he... And even when he's talking about her, when they start talking about at her being, Ava being attractive and sex and stuff, Nathan's like, oh, the answer to the question you want to ask is yes, you can screw her. Like
Yeah, he's like, no, he's like, no, you're thinking of this.
but the way he says it is she has an opening between her legs, and that's how he phrases it. It's very kind of like his language kind of indicates his opinions and how he views
It's
the opposite
lowest
sex.
common denominator, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, no, it's even though we're aware he's talking about a robot, which he may or may not view as a person, because that's kind of the point of what or at least the point that he's presenting. It's like you kind of get the feeling it's like, well, he could have been talking about an actual person, like an actual woman, and this would be the exact same thing as the way he'd say it.
Yeah, again, it's kind of him wrapped up in his own ego and his own arrogance, and it's like he's more important than everyone else, and you kind of feel like he knows that, because whenever he talks about the development of it, and Caleb's asking him about, why did you create her, like, what was your goal and stuff, and he's like, oh, it was just kind of inevitable. Artificial intelligence is always going to be coming.
Yeah, it was like it was going to happen, so I might as well have done it. Might as well be me.
And he's like, yeah, we're just going to, I'll turn her off, I'll mine the data, and I'll make a new model that'll be slightly better. And there's almost a very kind of, and obviously outside of the fact that she might have a conscience, and then you're going to kill her.
Yeah.
Which I think is the core problem for Caleb, and then it's kind of a problem for us, because she might actually be alive in that sense.
Yeah.
But there's this kind of depressing kind of idea where he knows that, like, again, his ego is that he knows that eventually he's going to die, and he wants to make something that's going to last, that he'll be remembered for.
He even mentions this, like, his goal is to get to the singularity, which is, so that, you can put your own consciousness into it, into a machine and live forever. That's part of that ego, the God complex that he has.
But of course, the other big thing in the movie that comes up, and from all places, he actually brings this idea up with him, with a Jackson Pollock painting, and the idea of defining what a consciousness is. And he talks about how, like, Jackson Pollock would, like, it wouldn't be random, but he also wouldn't, like, plan what he was doing. He would just kind of let his hand flow. And it's the idea that consciousness, like, because you can train a machine to be, to plan for things and be accurate. You can also train a machine to be completely random and just be an RNG. Of course you can. Yeah. But the idea of training it to be something in between, that's what being alive is. Is it because he compares it to be like being in love, or like even your sexuality. He talks about being straight, like, you were programmed to be straight. It's like, I wasn't programmed. Well, you didn't choose to be straight. Like, that was just kind of in there. Like,
yeah. So he does say, it's like, well, whether it's nature or nurture, I don't know. That's not the debate. The point is, it's programming. It's not a choice. It's impulse.
Yeah, like, why are you attracted to who you're attracted to? He says, for the sake of this argument, you're attracted to black girls. Why? Is it because you made up a list of all different race types and types of girls, and you cross compared them, and compared data, and like sat down with charts and really thought about it? No, you're just attracted to black girls. That's just, for whatever reason, that's just kind of what gets you going. That's all it is.
That's how you are.
So it's this idea that there's stuff that's not completely random, but it's not, like, planned either. It's not completely specific. And
I think it's actually a really interesting way of looking at consciousness. I don't think I've seen any other movies of this type look at it in that aspect.
I think it's the first time I've ever heard of this analogy, of this way of describing it this way, where it's something in between specific and random.
Because you typically usually see it as, oh, they're making choices. Like when they make a choice for themselves rather than because it's what they've been told to do. That's usually what the thing is, where it's how it's described as. Whereas this is a little bit different. This is more complex.
And I think, because I think a large part of it is that he like, going back to Jackson Pollock, he never knew what his thing would look like, and it was never like what was planned. And if he never started, if he sat and thought about it, he'd never get anything done. And it almost implies to me that, because repeatedly Caleb asks him, like, how did you do this? Like, I can't imagine how you achieved this, and he never answers. He always kind of dodges the question. And I almost wonder, was it intentional? Like, did he stumble onto it, kind of like how Jackson Pollock would get his final painting?
Yeah, I think it's more like he just did it.
Yeah.
Maybe it was his goal. Like, he wanted to have an AI. Jackson Pollock wanted to have a painting. So he wanted to have an artificial intelligence. But he just kind of did things. He didn't really plan it out. He's just like, hey, what about this? What about that?
And I wonder as well, like, the whole idea we get to the end of the movie and, like, things don't go as planned. Like, he doesn't intend for Ava to break out and stab him and kill him and then get outside. And that idea as well, that wasn't his planning. He didn't plan for that. He also didn't specifically plan anything. He's so vague about his future. Like, oh, I'll strip her down and make a new version. And yeah, I want to get to singularity, but there's no set path there. He's kind of intentionally being wishy-washy about it because of this thinking, and it's the idea that something, it's kind of what Ex Machina means. It's the ghost in the machine. It's something comes out unexpected, and it's her actually getting to this point and so basically when we get to the end of the movie, we find out that it wasn't a winner of a competition. Caleb was picked specifically. He was picked because of the things he searches for online, because of the type of person he is. He even questions, like, did you model her face after, like, what I search for on the internet, like, what I look up in porn? Like, did you like create an image of someone based on what my type of girl? Which kind of goes back to that conversation earlier when he asks him what his type is, and he kind of like gets awkward about it. He doesn't answer because he doesn't want to just say, "Oh, well,
it's
Ava."
that one. It's like her, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she obviously, like, she has more skin and stuff, but
yeah, pretty much that.
pretty much Ava. So in retrospect, that scene works even better.
It does.
But So it's all been planned, and the reason's actually, the test is actually, it's not that he's just there to test her. It's not like he's going to just accept whether or not he believes it. He's actually done something else that's actually much more, and it actually makes a lot of sense to me when he says it. Is that he's basically dangled him as an option for escape, because all of his subjects so far have hated him, and she hates him as well. They all, like, when we see this video and then we hear Ava talk to him with the audio, because that's actually one of the interesting things, is that up until that point, we never actually see him interact with her.
Yeah. It's really interesting. We see it once on the video, but we don't hear it. We just get an impression of what's going on, but it's hard to really glean.
But they all hate him. They all want out. So he basically he puts in Caleb, and the idea is that she is like a rat in a maze. That is the exact phrase he uses, and he's the opportunity to escape. And the idea being that to do that, she would have to manipulate, convince, empathize. She would have to, like, gain trust. She would
have imagination.
There you go. Yeah, she'd have to, like, think of these ideas. She'd have to do all this, and it's like, that's actually, in a sadistic way, what you've done to poor Caleb here. I mean, Caleb's just been a toy. He's been a plaything.
Oh, pretty much
for both characters. Ava's manipulating him. I mean, at this point in the movie, we're not sure if she has been. She might actually care for him. We don't know that for sure yet at this point. But obviously, we know later on that she is. So both characters have been manipulated him. I'm like, poor Caleb.
And another point, I think, Nathan never mentions it, but I think it's one of the most important aspects is that she wants to be free. Already, that's enough that he knows that she's alive, because she's a sentient being that wants to be free. If she's aware enough to know that, then she's probably aware enough that this is wrong now.
Yeah, and of course there's these power cuts that happen, and we find out that Ava's the one doing them. And the idea that every time the power goes down for like a minute, they can talk without Nathan seeing them. Yeah. So they devise this plan, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get him drunk," which we saw him do already. That's when he watched all the video stuff. He's going to get him drunk, steal his key card, and then he'll, like, do things to the security so that they can get out. He's going to help her escape, and then Nathan, in a really awkward scene, plays back this footage, even though it's kind of only half awkward because Nathan knew he was going to do something.
I love that next morning after that conversation where he comes in, early morning. He's like, "Hey, this is going great. Let's have a drink to celebrate." He pours some vodkas, and then he's like, "Nah, I'm not drinking." And you just immediately go, "Does he know?"
Yeah, well, because even he's suspected earlier on that he's actually faking the blackouts just so he can see so they think they're not being watched. So what do they say now that it's different? And it turns out he wasn't, but he did install a camera or an extra one that was battery powered so that he could see later stuff. But then it turns out that Caleb's actually quite smart. Basically, he already did everything he said he was going to do the night before when he was drunk, and he did steal his key card the first time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that's when Caleb, for the first time in the movie, feels like he loses control, and he starts to worry. He punches Caleb in the face for a start, and I'm like, hey, you kind of intentionally manipulated him into being manipulated by her to help him escape.
Yeah, this is kind of on you, man.
Yeah, can you really be mad at him that he was smart enough to outsmart you? Again, ego, arrogance. That's
because he didn't believe anyone could do it.
Yeah. Again, it's the idea of the not the random, but the in between is kind of like he set all this up. He planned too much, and something that he didn't predict. That's not random. That you could have maybe Like, it'd be hard to predict it,
it's
but
an outcome that is potential. If you know, if he'd looked at it,
yeah,
it's an outcome that's possible, but not necessarily likely.
yeah. So we have Ava like outside, and the shot that was in the trailers that I do love in the movie that they used to try and sell it as, oh, she's going to be a killer robot by the end of the movie, is the shot where she runs towards Nathan and she starts running at full speed, and it is terrifying.
I know. It's like, oh, that is a hell of a moment. It gets me every time. Like, you know, that moment. Every time I watch that trailer.
Yeah, and she gets the servant robot to like stab him, and then like he ends up like whacking her jaw off with the. He's got like his weight bar, and he whacks her face off, and then Ava stabs him again, and he's just in shock. Like his creations like come up to destroy him, and again,
Literally stabbed him in the back.
And if we're going with yeah, the whole god complex thing, the idea of your creation like outliving you and like leaving you in the dust,
rebelling against the creator.
Yeah, so it's a very condensed version of that. But of course, at this point, you're still thinking maybe she does genuinely care for Caleb. I mean,
yeah, she could.
She could do, and she's been convincing. And we have this really hypnotic scene where she goes to the room with all the other bodies, because she had her arm whacked off, like Nathan like chopped her arm off, and she steals an arm from one of the other models, and then she like takes the skin off them and starts like patching herself up.
I love how it's almost like Velcro when it goes on.
It kind of is, yeah. And one of my favourite shots here is like there's like, you know, it's like multiple mirrors, and you can see like it's like two mirrors at an angle, you know, kind of like not full right angled, but kind of like, you know, obtuse angled. And in the main mirror we're looking at for the start of the scene, while she's kind of naked and she's looking at herself, you can see all the lines like down her shoulder where the different parts of skin separate, and then the camera just kind of just tracks to the side, and it focuses, you know, it changes focus to the other mirror at a slightly different angle, and in that mirror all the seams are gone. It just looks like skin now. It was a really subtle thing.
It was clever.
It's just a little trick, but it was really effective. And she puts on a dress, and she leaves Caleb locked in a room to die.
Yeah, it's kind of dark.
It's really dark. You feel really bad for Caleb, because he has been manipulated. He literally gets brought in because he is, you know, a good person with morals, and he was gullible, I guess, enough to kind of...
Yeah, and he's there banging on the door. Obviously you can't hear him because it's soundproof, but he's there screaming, you know, going, come on, let me out. Yeah,
and it's not even like he has any ill will towards her at this point. He just, like, if she just let him out and said, like, I just used you, I'm just going to go in the helicopter that's coming, like...
I think ultimately he'd have still gone, well, then you're a person, you should be free.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where he'd have landed.
And I think that's where the ambiguity of the ending comes in. It's like, okay, she has intelligence, but morality seems to not be there.
Definitely.
And that's really interesting, because obviously the movie the whole time is like, does she have feelings for him? That implies morality to a point. You know, it kind of goes hand in hand.
I mean, it implies empathy at the very least. But now it's like, okay, she seemed to have empathy, but she doesn't really. No, it was all a pretense. There's no realness to it.
I think that's maybe a symptom of she was taught by someone who, instead of trying to teach her right from wrong, did nothing but manipulate to get his results.
I think it goes back to what Nathan actually said about, you know, it's nature versus nurture. Her nature was blank by definition. You know, he created her. It was nothingness. And then his nurture was hatred, and, you know, locking her in a room and going, no, you've got to be better than this to survive.
Yeah. And as a result, he made a flawed species.
Yeah, definitely.
To go back to the God complex, like, he created something that is flawed. But no, it's this is the big sort of ideas that make the movie work, and I think you have obviously the movie ends with her getting on the helicopter, and we see her go to, like, because earlier on in the movie she said she wanted to go to a traffic intersection, and we kind of see that. We just get this sort of like obscure shot looking through like a window, and she's kind of looking at the people around her, and she kind of flickers out of existence. She kind of, like, someone walks past her and she just vanishes, like, in the shot, and it's kind of like, oh, she's out there, she's part of us.
Yeah, she's there now, and there's no putting the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, I like it because it has its own spin on a topic that I've seen done a number of times at this point.
Like I said, it has things in this that I've never seen done in a movie before, and it's a very common theme, really.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely common, because I think going into it, you know, you think one of two typical outcomes. You think she is really get feelings, and it's going to be this weird love story between this man and this robotic woman, and she will get out, and they'll have a happy, or maybe they won't get out. Maybe it'll be a tragic ending, but they'll end kind of in love, and it'll be like sweet and bittersweet, depending on which way it goes. Or the other possibility is she goes killer robot and she kills everyone. And well, it's still kind of that in the sense that it's really dark because she leaves Caleb behind.
But she chooses not to kill him herself. Like, she doesn't make the effort.
She doesn't care.
She doesn't stab him in the way that she does. She has actual like hatred, like you said, for Nathan. Whereas Caleb, she's indifferent. It's like, go on, just starve, suffocate, whatever.
She's achieved her goal, so she doesn't even acknowledge that he's there. Interestingly, I want to talk about the ending in a different light, because I've heard criticisms online of people who thought it should end as soon as the elevator door shuts. When
I've thought that even when I was watching this, I was like, that would be such a good shot, because she looks to the side where where Caleb is. She looks over at that doorway as it shuts, and that's almost like that's a perfect cut to black moment. But I do love what comes after.
Yeah, because then you don't get her walking out and seeing the sky. You don't get her, in the world. And you could argue, like, what is that final shot in the world? Does that contribute to the ideas of the movie? Like, do we need that moment?
I think a way to do it is, when they're talking about the story of, Mary in black and white, is have those shots kind of interspersed there, and, show it a bit more blatantly and go, no, this is what could be for you. And then if you end on the elevator, we've already seen that, so we've seen what it could be for her. So we get the idea of, no, that's what there's going to happen.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Here's a radical idea that would maybe be too obvious, but what if when she got outside, the film turned to black and white?
Did a reversal. That'd be nice.
And it'd be kind of like, yeah, she's got outside, but because she's not actually got the morality, so she's not really a human being.
Yeah, that could work.
But then again, her creator was a human being, and he didn't have a whole lot of morals, so, I mean...
yeah, maybe she's more human than we're giving her credit for.
Yeah, maybe, there's also a critique on human... I mean, there's definitely a critique on human... There's a critique in men, at the very least, and ego, and...
Absolutely.
But the whole idea that it's ego-driven assholes who actually drive a lot of things forward because they're determined to achieve what their goals are, regardless of what the reasons may be, so...
And, I think part of what makes this movie work for me so well is... we talk about how, is she just playing, up until that end point, is she playing along? Is it real? She convinces us too. We're in the same situation as Caleb. We don't know. We're kind of just hoping for the best.
I think I was unsure how to read her, but it's when the power goes out, and then she sort of has, like, things she's hiding from Nathan.
And she seems really genuine, doesn't she?
Yeah, but she's hiding something from Nathan that she doesn't want him to hear. That's when it's like, oh, this feels a bit more real. Like, she wants... is hell.
Yeah, and it builds this rapport between them where they're like, no, this is us. We've got a relationship between us two, away from Nathan.
Yeah. So no. That's any other scenes we want to talk about from, because we kind of didn't go necessarily super in depth. There was lots of little moments. He brings up the reference movies a lot. He brings up Star Trek at one point. He brings up Ghostbusters.
Caleb seems really, really unaware of movies in general.
I kind of took it now that he's unaware, just that he
caught off guard.
Yeah, he doesn't get the references because he's just not used to movie references in a weird way. Like, I kind of feel like, yeah, of course he knows Ghostbusters, but
yeah,
he's just like, why are you referencing Ghostbusters? I'm trying to.
Because everyone references Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that he makes him sign an NDA as soon as he gets there. It's like, okay, before I show you anything cool, have an NDA.
And he's like, you're signing away that you have these intrusive data checks. Periodically that we will check everything, private, personal, public.
Do you know, it didn't sound too bad when he mentioned that in about a year's time this will be public anyway. So it's like, okay, it'll only happen for a year. Because there's no point for them to check after that.
But they can check everything you've done on your life up till this point. But then as the movie kind of goes on, it's this kind of... it kind of looks at Google in some aspects. Obviously, the company is based after Google, clearly, anyway.
Yeah, it's a
search engine. Yeah. But, the idea that, we can kind of see all this information anyway. Data mining, just because we don't have official, access, we get it all regardless, with what you give us. I mean, we all see it in our own lives, just, the targeted ads you get on Facebook, say, because you've searched for something on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's that idea that every time you install an app on your phone, like you're going, oh yeah, you can use all these things, tick, tick, tick. You don't look at it, but you're giving them all these rights. And it's like, yeah, they can do all this. And he talks about, turning on all the microphones and cameras on every phone. And obviously that's an extreme example. But again, most of these apps, you're going, yep, you can use my camera and my microphone.
That's why every day at about noon, I'll search for 5 random things that I would never care about just to throw it off.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good plan, actually. Should start doing that.
I'll be like, what shall I search for today? Synchronized swimming. Yes. Yes, Google thinks I'm into synchronized swimming. They don't know me at all.
What you need to do is you actually need to search it like a few times, just so it really thinks you're into it. Just so it's like, oh, okay, you've got something on me, or you think you've got something on me. One search, it's like, it could be anything. But 3 or 4 searches over a couple of weeks, there's an interest.
This is odd. What? Synchronized swimming, carpentry. A really odd list of hobbies this person's into. You know nothing, Google. You know nothing about me. I am an enigma.
Google knows everything about everyone. Let's be real.
They have too much fake data. They have to sort through it to get to the real truth.
Yeah, I mean, just think of like email providers. Google, Microsoft. Whoever you're with, Yahoo, they own your emails. You don't own your email because this is relevant this week because it was a big court case where someone died and their relative tried to get their emails, so it's like they could go through it all, and they're like, no, they're ours, you can't have them. And it's like on like Facebook and Twitter, you can set someone up so if you die they can kind of control your account and like go and sort all your things out. Even those things won't give them access to your personal messages and stuff like that because it's property of Facebook or Twitter. It's probably of those companies, not you.
All right, so what it's saying is
never type anything online ever again.
No, just automatically send like copies of every email you send to a doc file. Just like have it backed up. Everything you've ever done.
So someone can read the doc file at least.
Yeah, they'll all be there.
Yeah.
And then make a book out of them, and then when Google tries to sue you for copyright because they own the emails, you're like, well, screw you, that's my life story. You piss off.
That's a good plan.
Oh dear. So yeah, Ex Machina is very good, basically.
Yeah, love it.
We went on a little bit of a tangent at the end, but that was it's good speculative science fiction and goes into psychology, philosophy, all that kind of stuff. It's all about ideas and
I think it succeeds on not being dry, which it so easily could be with all these things, but it's so well shot that even just a conversation feels like it's off kilter. There's something of interest. There's the paranoia underneath everything, even when you're having these conversations that should be these big, heavy things.
Very quickly, it feels like Nathan's holding stuff back, and you feel kind of uncomfortable for Caleb because he feels like he's been withheld on, and he's trying to figure things out, and he's not doing it with all the information.
And Nathan always kind of makes a point of showing how he's ahead. When they go down into the bedroom, it's like, hey, there's something you're not comfortable about. And Caleb's like, no, it's fine. And he's like, yeah, it's the lack of windows. I know it's the lack of windows.
Well,
you're not going to like
when they first meet, and he's awkward for a little bit because he's kind of nervous. This billionaire, celebrity.
It's his boss as well. That's his boss, he works for that company.
But I guess it's always weird to me when it's like that though, because when you meet like the person who started the company, cause it's like, well, you're kind of my boss, but it's not like you actually work day to day and
never
operate.
See, but you are technically, you could fire me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he could send a memo down the chain, and it would finally reach the right person to fire
exactly.
you. But when he first meets him, he's kind of nervous, and after a couple of lines of dialogue, he's like, hey, let's just get this out in the open, you're kind of freaked out, he's like, let's just be guys, let's just be Nathan and Caleb, and he's like, oh, okay, nice to meet you, Nathan, nice to meet you, and it's like, this is bullshit, he is doing this, and then everything after this is him showing him that I'm smarter than you, I am further ahead than you.
I mean, he even says, like, you're freaked out because I'm famous and I'm amazing, basically, like, and I'm basically a god, so come on.
Yeah. He's like, oh, this house is cool, right? And then he was, on the morning he's going to try and get him to drink again. Which, by the way, Caleb, at least wait till afternoon to make it feel believable. Like, try to do it at like breakfast.
It's always 3 somewhere.
So he's just like, yeah, this is your last day, Caleb. And he's like, hey, something to tell your grandkids about. He's like, oh, you think that much of yourself? This is going to be a story that he tells his grandkids.
Yeah. Do you know what I will say? I think Caleb was really stupid there, because one of the first pieces of information that he learns about Nathan is after a heavy night, he kind of compensates, and he goes and does exercise. That's how he meets him. And we know he had a heavy night the night before, and he goes, "Here, I'll give you some anyway." Like, it's like, no, you know this. Wait till later.
Yeah, also the clearly alcoholic drinking because he's just boozing every night constantly, and getting blackout drunk even though he's on his own. Which again, there's an awkward moment at the start when he's
How was the party?
yeah, and he just gets awkward because it's like, no, he was just binge drinking on his own,
Yeah,
like Connor on an arrow night.
yeah, but there's reason for that.
Yeah. And it's just like right away. And I think the whole binge drinking thing. It's like, again, it's this self-destructive kind of mentality he has.
Yeah,
He's like, he's this troubled artist. Like he wants to have that kind of vibe to him.
yeah, definitely.
So, that's Ex Machina. So I guess with all that said, we can give it some ratings out of the old 10-point scale. But we do half points as well because we need some more increments.
Yeah, we're not savages.
No. Connor.
I'm gonna give it 9.
$8.5.
Fair enough.
It's close. I'm not quite ready to commit to the 9. Maybe after another couple of viewings, maybe I'll feel more.
I think I was on the 8.5 the first time, but this time I'm like, because I got more out of it this time. So I'm like, the first time it's like I'm just watching the horror as it goes on, and this time I'm going, okay, how's it doing this? How's it doing that?
Nah.
So I think it kind of edges its way up for me.
It's 8.5. And as much as I've praised it a lot for not being too dry and having pretty decent pacing, I do think there is, like, I don't want to say pacing trouble, because it's not pacing trouble, but like there may be, like, could be more drive in the middle portion of the movie.
Kind of around the point where he's dancing.
Yeah, around the point where
it's around that area where the dancing kind of sticks out because something's going on here. I know what you mean.
Yeah, what I'm meaning is when it gets to the point where Ava's like, "Oh, I need your help to get out," and Caleb actually says, "Yeah, I'm going to help you get out. Here's my plan." That's where it feels like, okay, we're actually getting to plot. And when you feel like, oh, we're finally getting to plot, it means that we've been a little while where it feels like, no, it's not spinning its wheels. It's had a lot of good, but there's a lot of talking scenes back to back for a long portion of the movie. And maybe there could have just been a bit more ebb and flow, in the middle to give it more of
that's fair. Yeah.
A direction. But like I say, it's not a big complaint. Like this is why I'm saying it's an 8.5 and not a 9.
It's one of those where you don't feel it until you get to the point. It's not like you're going through it and going, "Oh, this is taking too long." It's when you get to it, going, "Oh, plot," where you go, "Hang on, that means."
Yeah. It just a bit more drive in some of that early to middle kind of chunk. But
no, I'm with you.
But very, very, very good. Very, very good modern sci-fi film.
Definitely.
And I am looking forward to Annihilation. And I think, like, there's potential for it to be even bigger and better than what this was, depending.
Like I said, I've not seen the trailer, but I don't need to see it to know I'm going to go see it.
Adding in a bit of a horror element. No, I mean, okay, you could argue that her shit running down that hallway was a little bit of horror towards the end, but adding in a horror element to what Alex Garland does has got me a little bit excited for Annihilation. So I'm digging it. So that has been Ex Machina. Of course, as we said, this was the winner of the Patreon vote. The Patreon vote for next month is up. It's all Hitchcock movies. I'm kind of promoting it. Admittedly, the patrons who can vote on it will get this in time. They can still vote on it, so I suppose it's still worth mentioning. But obviously we'll have a new...
For anyone else who's watching this just on YouTube, that's too late. That's already been decided.
Yeah, that's already close.
And I don't think we have the next vote ready, do we?
We don't know what that is, no. We have to decide that before the end of the month. So
that'll be on the next episode.
That'll be something we bring up in the next episode. But there you go. So that has been Ex Machina. So as we've just mentioned, the Patreon, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. There's a bunch of bonuses over there, and you can help support us and keep us doing more stuff, more content. And we actually just started something today at the time of recording on Streams After Midnight, which is a cool little idea that I had for that. And we can probably do it for this show as well. We have less episodes of this show because we do 2 streams a week, so we'd get to more of them more often. But but basically the idea of like an ongoing list that our patrons can kind of submit movies to. And it wouldn't be like any kind of commitment of saying, oh, we have to do X number of them, but just whenever we have an open slot, we could say, okay, let's just look at the list of submitted movies, and we'll pick one from that list if we, if we're...
I'm down for that, because obviously when this show started at the start of the year,
Yeah.
we went through and made a list, but we've actually gotten a relative way through that list now.
Yeah, we have a chunk left, and basically the way we work our system now, we have our Patreon vote winner. We have movies that either one of us picked because we wanted to see them that we haven't seen before. So we'll do one of his, one of mine, the Patreon vote, and then there'll maybe be like, oh, there's a sequel coming out. We want to do the previous movie, and that'll be kind of the system.
Hence the reason we just did Thor, sort of.
Exactly. And maybe like we just add this into the rotation where it'd be one of his, one of mine, and then one of the Patreon list that people have submitted. Depending, or maybe they'll go on a vote. That was the other thing. Maybe on the streams, because we call the streams list the crypt. It's the streams after midnight crypt,
Okay,
where people submit, and it would be a public list. Like once people have submitted, we make the list public. You could see what's already submitted, and you could look at it. And it's just a fun little thing where you get to feel like you're maybe suggesting things, and you get to see that your picks are considered. I mean, they might not be picked for a while. There's no obligation for us to do it, but it's on they're on the to-do list, which is ever expanding. So
yeah, so it might mean we never get to it because there's something that always goes above it, but it'll probably get done.
Yeah. So no. Obviously, we reserve the right to refuse certain films if you pick something silly.
Aye, because if you pick a musical, I'll be like, sure, but Pete's gonna go, no chance, because he's a boring bastard.
I was thinking more like a Serbian film, but yeah, sure, musicals too.
I think musicals are, people are more likely to suggest that because they know you don't like them.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking if someone picks like an extreme like exploitation thing that's like, just morally, I don't want to watch. not because I just don't like musicals. But fair point too.
It's alright. Pete might have to watch a musical soon anyway.
Yeah, if you are a patron, go and vote in the Overload and vote for Neon Demon, because you don't want Matt's movie to win.
You absolutely want Matt's movie to win.
You want Neon Demon to win because it'll make Matt suffer.
Again. What happens if Matt wins? What have you got to watch?
Some little movie. There's people in it. I don't know.
What was it called again?
Something. I don't
You're trying to think of something really witty now, and you're stalling.
Tinky Winky Land or something. I don't know.
That was atrocious.
That was a good joke.
No, you stalled that long for that.
I was trying to think of an old Teletubby. I couldn't remember the names.
Jesus.
Lala was one of them, right? There was a Lala.
It was, yes.
Okay,
right. I get where you were coming from. You were in a ballpark of making the Teletubby reference, but
this is the problem is that I'm too old. Like I was like past that age. Like, 'cause Teletubbies for young kids. Like that's, I guess, your toddlers. I was past that age. I was like, I don't know, 10, 12 when Teletubbies became a thing. So I was already.
You can't have been.
I'm sure I was.
Teletubbies is older than that, surely. Because I remember it like I'm not that much. I mean, I remember it like a lot.
I wasn't. Maybe I was slightly younger, but I wasn't. I was too old for it though. I wasn't young enough to be watching it when it started. So I've never seen an episode of Teletubbies. It was just a thing that was around.
I mean, it started 97. So
yeah, I was 8.
Yeah, you'd have just missed it by like 2 years.
I mean, yeah. Okay. Give or take. I mean, I was watching Die Hard by this point, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd say give or take for most people.
I was a little bit further in the ages in terms of my viewing habits.
Yeah. Luckily, they have penetrated popular culture, and you know them anyway.
I don't think I'm comfortable with using the word penetrated whilst talking about the Teletubbies, but yeah, so yeah, head over to Patreon. That's where I was actually doing the plugs. I'd started the plugs, and then we went on a tangent. So Patreon.
That was one extended plug.
You can support us there. Like, subscribe, let us know what you think of the movie in the comments, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. Otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again. One small note. We did skip a week this month. I can promise you we'll be skipping 1 week in November as well. It won't be next week. We'll get an episode next week. But we have like multiple Netflix shows in the second half of the month, so I am very confident that one of those weeks will be going without an Influx episode. So apologies for that, but we're planning for it this month because we actually, we looked at it and said, yeah, this is unfeasible. We can't fit all this in, so we'll make the choice now.
I'm still amazed we went, because this we started this in like January, maybe February.
So, something like that. Something like that.
But we went a good while without missing a single episode.
Yeah, we had 2 some weeks early on.
Yeah.
That dried up pretty quick once all the TV started.
Yeah, then it was like, okay, we're busy now.
Far too busy for that now. But hey, Patreon takes off enough. We can devote more time to extra
I
things.
doubt we'll ever be the machines that you and Tim have been during October.
I'm ready for October to be done. Like, I was excited about it for the first week or two. I'm at the point now where, like, oh god, I've got another... And we have an extra one, like, Creep 2 snuck up on us this week, so now we have an extra one on top of the 5 we're already doing this week.
I mean, as we're recording this, it is the 25th, so you've got 6 things in 6 days.
Aye, and then we do the top 100 videos, so... basically, all month for Streams After Midnight, we have an episode that's gone up every single day except the Saturdays, because the Tuesdays have had the top 100 videos and then there's been a movie every other day. This week we're going to have a movie on a Saturday because we had this Creep 2 snuck in at the last minute. It's like, oh, we need to do that. We need Creep 2. And then
the first one was very good. So.
It was very good. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'll be watching it probably later tonight, I imagine. So there we go. That
if you're watching this on YouTube, those are all there for you to go and watch already.
Oh yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're probably during the week off that we're taking off at the start of November because me and Tim are like dead, and we've done... I actually worked it out. I think by the end of the month, we'll have done 27 episodes in October of Streams After Midnight.
I'm not being funny, but that might be too many.
I don't know, part of me is like, that's only 4 away from every day of the month.
You're kind of like, next year we could do 31.
We could do 31 next year. Oh man, anyway, that has been us, so thank you once again for watching. Keep watching movies, guys, and we will see you next time.